Meanwhile, the other staff members at the restaurant, envious of Ozioma's success, hatched a plan to frame her for stealing money from Mrs. Nkem. They planted the money in Ozioma's bag, and when Mrs. Nkem discovered the missing funds, anger consumed her. "What have you done, Ozioma? How could you betray my trust?" Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young girl named Ozioma. She faced the harsh reality of life when she lost her parents at a tender age, leaving her to fend for herself. Determined to survive, Ozioma worked odd jobs and managed to scrape together enough to sustain herself. As the years passed, Ozioma decided to seek new opportunities in a distant city. With a small bag of belongings, she embarked on a journey of uncertainty. After days of travel, hungry and tired, she stumbled upon a restaurant owned by a kind woman named Mrs. Nkem. Mrs. Nkem, noticing Ozioma's weary appearance, approached her with compassion. "My dear, you could use a warm meal. Come, sit and have something to eat," she offered. Grateful for the unexpected kindness, Ozioma accepted the offer. Mrs. Nkem, sensing Ozioma's determination, decided to offer her a job at the restaurant. "You can work here and have a place to stay. We could use some extra help," Mrs. Nkem said with a warm smile. Ozioma gladly accepted the offer and soon became an integral part of the restaurant. Her friendly demeanor and hard work attracted more customers, bringing prosperity to Mrs. Nkem's business. In the evenings, after closing the restaurant, Ozioma would return home with Mrs. Nkem. Their shared laughter made their humble dwelling a place filled with warmth and joy. Little did Ozioma know that a storm was brewing in the form of Mr. Okoro, Mrs. Nkem's husband. One day, Mr. Okoro, a man with a dark heart, attempted to take advantage of Ozioma. "You know, girl, you could have a comfortable life here if you play your cards right," he whispered with a sinister smile. Ozioma, shocked and offended, firmly rejected his advances. She kept the disturbing incident to herself, not wanting to burden Mrs. Nkem with such unsettling news. Meanwhile, the other staff members at the restaurant, envious of Ozioma's success, hatched a plan to frame her for stealing money from Mrs. Nkem. They planted the money in Ozioma's bag, and when Mrs. Nkem discovered the missing funds, anger consumed her. "What have you done, Ozioma? How could you betray my trust?" Mrs. Nkem shouted in disbelief. Confused and hurt, Ozioma tried to explain her innocence, but the evidence spoke louder than words. The other staff members, playing their parts well, fueled Mrs. Nkem's anger. At home, Mrs. Nkem confronted her husband about the incident at the restaurant. "Our business is ruined because of that girl. She's a thief," Mrs. Nkem exclaimed. Mr. Okoro seized the opportunity to poison his wife's mind further. "I always knew there was something off about her. She's been trying to seduce me, but I resisted," he lied. Fueled by anger and betrayal, Mrs. Nkem dismissed Ozioma from both her home and the restaurant. "Pack your things and leave. I never want to see your face again," Mrs. Nkem declared with tears in her eyes. Heartbroken and betrayed, Ozioma found herself sleeping on the streets that night. The once promising life she had built was now shattered. As dawn broke, Ozioma wiped away her tears and vowed to rebuild her life, unaware of the twists and turns fate had in store for her. Homeless on the streets of the city, Ozioma felt the weight of despair. But as fate would have it, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. Nwanyima, the woman whose market stall she used to patronize at Mrs. Nkem's restaurant. Nwanyima, it's me, Ozioma, she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up with a glimmer of hope. Nwanyima, shocked and saddened by Ozioma's predicament, decided to take her to the market. Come with me, my dear. I have missed seeing you around. I want to help, she said with genuine concern. That day, Nwanyima's market stall flourished and Ozioma felt a sense of relief. Back at Nwanyima's home, the two women bonded over shared stories and laughter. Ozioma discovered that Nwanyima had a son named Ekene, and they instantly became like family. Nwanyima, thank you for everything. I never expected to find kindness after what happened. Ozioma expressed her gratitude, filling her voice. With time, Nwanyima's business prospered and she decided to invest in Ozioma's future. She handed Ozioma a sum of money to start her own food business near their home. The business flourished and the bond between Ozioma and Ekene deepened as they worked side by side. Nwanyima, feeling a sense of fulfillment, embraced Ozioma as her own daughter. The trio's joy knew no bounds. One day, Nwanyima and Ozioma approached Ekene with exciting news. Ekene, we believe in your potential and it's time for you to go to the city and make a name for yourself, Nwanyima declared with a profound smile on her face. And they brought out huge amounts of money and gave to Ekene to use and start up a business in the city. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Ekene struggled to find the right words. I will make both of you proud, I promise, he vowed, hugging them tightly. The next morning, Nwanyima and Ozioma prayed for Ekene's success as he embarked on his journey to the city. The echoes of laughter and the warmth of their shared dreams lingered in the air, leaving the promise of a future filled with hope and fulfillment. And so, the story of Ozioma, Nwanyima and Ekene continued, with the city holding the key to the new adventures and opportunities. As the sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Ozioma and Nwanyima set out for their daily hustles at their respective shops. Little did they know that in the former city where Ozioma had faced hardship, a storm was brewing into Mr. Okoro and Mrs. Nkem's life. In a twist of fate, the two were caught in a heated argument, and in the heat of the moment, Mr. Okoro unknowingly confessed to his evil actions towards Ozioma. Mrs. Nkem stood dumbfounded, realizing the extent of her husband's deceit. Disturbed by the truth, Mrs. Nkem decided to seek Ozioma's forgiveness. She visited her shop, remorse etched across her face. Ozioma, I have wronged you deeply. Please find it in your heart to forgive me, Mrs. Nkem pleaded. Ozioma, with a heart full of compassion, forgave Mrs. Nkem. It is well with me, and it is well with you, ma. May your business flourish, she said, offering a gesture of forgiveness. A year passed, and on a beautiful morning, Ekene returned home, successful as he promised. Nwanyima, aware of Ekene's arrival, couldn't contain her joy. As Ozioma left for her shop, Ekene surprised her by coming back. The mother and son embraced, thanking God for the blessings in their lives, including Ozioma. With excitement, they headed to Ozioma's shop to surprise her. Ekene stood beside her shop, waiting eagerly for Ozioma to turn back. She was greeted with the joyous sight of Ekene and Nwanyima standing side by side. Ozioma, Surprised, Ekene exclaimed, her face beaming with happiness. Ozioma, overwhelmed with joy, ran into Ekene's arm. "Ekene, you made it. I am proud of you," she expressed, tears of happiness filling her eyes. Nwaanyịmma, looking at the scene, felt a sense of completion. "Thank you, Ozioma, for being a blessing in our lives. Today is a day of celebration," she said with gratitude. The trio, bounded by love and shared struggles, stood together in that moment of triumph. The echoes of forgiveness and newfound happiness filled the air, marking the end of their challenging journey and the beginning of a life filled with love, success, and genuine connections. And so, in this episode, the story concludes with a celebration of victory over adversity and the warmth of a newfound family. With hearts full of love and a promise for a forever bond, Ekene proposed to Ozioma and she agreed to marry him, and there was joy in their family. Ekene and Ozioma exchanged vows under the shade of a blooming tree. The sun smiled down on them, and the air echoed with joy as they declared their love. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride," the officiant announced. Ekene gently lifting Ozioma's veil, and they shared a sweet heartfelt kiss, sealing the commitment to a lifetime together. As the couple embarked on their journey as Mr. and Mrs. They settled in a cozy home filled with laughter and warmth. Ozioma's food business thrived, and Ekene's successes mirrored the happiness in their hearts. One evening, Nwaanyịmma, beaming with joy, visited their home. "My dears, seeing both of you together makes my heart swell with happiness. You have made me so proud," she said, her eyes shining with love. Ozioma, holding Ekene's hand, replied, "Nwaanyịmma, you've been like a mother to me. Your blessings have brought us this far." Ekene, with gratitude in his voice, added, "You are not just Ozioma's benefactor, you are family. We owe so much to you for our happiness." Nwaanyịmma, feeling fulfilled, responded, "Seeing you both happy is all the reward I need. May your love continue to grow, and may your home always be filled with laughter and love." And so, in the warmth of their shared home, Ozioma and Ekene lived happily ever after, with Nwaanyịmma cherishing the joy she had witnessed in the lives of the two people she had come to love as her own. Lessons: the story teaches us that forgiveness, hard work, and kindness can bring lasting happiness, and true family is built on love and support, not just blood ties. Thank you for watching. Please kindly leave a comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories.